Let's check in with the doc and look at things with a wider lens. Pastor Richards on OMG.
Now, hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Hi, Dr. Richards, how are you?
I'm doing very well. I trust that you are also.
I am well, thank you for asking. Thank you,
Okay,
thank you.
great. What we have in the studio today?
Well, of course, being he already stepped out, so with me is Flex. He's eager to say morning.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, how you doing, Flex?
Good, sir.
And IKTV is with us as well.
Good morning to everyone. Daniel, I meant to let you know yesterday in review, I thought that a couple times you were trying to interject. Sometimes I don't hear.
I know.
And so I was like, man, that's rude.
No,
that's
it's okay. I understand.
That's what
I
it
know
will
he
come
doesn't
across
hear.
as rude, but it's not rude. It's
Yeah.
really that I don't hear when you are.
It's
So I tell
alright.
you what I do. I give you a first shot this morning. Because I come on, and once I get, to be honest with you, once I
you
get
get
warmed
going.
up, I go, right? So it's better that, and sometimes I just need to, just pause, and if there are things that, you or the audience wanted to ask and get my perspective on,
Yeah.
rather than me just come on and give a monologue. You could get my perspective if you ask. So, sure.
Well, the first thing I want to know is if you are having coconut water now with your That's the first thing I want to know. Have you given up the Coke? The drink?
No, I was told to do that. But I tried a new thing, though. I'll be honest with you. I tried grating ginger and putting it in the water and just let it sit there for a while, and then drinking it just like that. Truth be told, I think the best thing that you can ever drink is water, of course, and I really love drinking water. But I mean, sometimes we don't get Dr. Pepper here, which is my favorite drink.
Okay.
Dr. Pepper. And so I can't get Dr. Pepper, so I say, okay, every time I want a little guilty pleasure, I do a Coke. It's not that I do the thing every day, so people out there, all the people on Vinci Cuisine especially, who chastise me and posted your tamarind drink and all of that. So yeah, but I do. I have not given up the coffee. I'll be honest about that.
Oh
so.
boy, that's all right. Now, Pastor, on a serious note, I do have a question for you.
Go ahead.
We're seeing a number of crimes taking place, murders. You would think that right now the world, we're kind of going through a crisis. Not kind of, we're going through a crisis more or less, where there are so many people who are suffering, whether it be health, whether it be economic struggles that they're facing, etc. And still we see, persons are taking the time out to go and
Yeah, I get you there.
Yeah. Go ahead.
In some of the outside of St. Vincent, in some of the major cities, like Chicago, for example, was a real issue, and elsewhere too. But I'm just speaking what I know and what I heard. That over the period of the lockdown, whenever there was a shelter in place, there was a remarkable dip in gun-related. In fact, not just gun-related violence, but in all crimes of assault and that nature. There was a quite a marked drop, and not just in Chicago, but elsewhere. I think in Miami, Dade County, I think, Florida, there was a drop there. So even in St. Vincent here for a while, there was a lull, and you felt like people were diverted by the immediacy of the COVID-19. But people who are in government and management and managing society understand that this is not going to last forever, because related to the pandemic are issues that are not merely confined or restricted to health. The entire social upheaval, which it really is a social upheaval in every facet and sphere of the 7 mountains of society. Everything is off carnival, and some businesses and school and church, everything. So with life disrupted, in this fashion, and then you add on top of that economic considerations where people's means of living and lifestyle are going to be affected. This all funnels into what will eventually become a security issue. I don't think that we are there yet, but as these things begin to funnel down and intermix, the outcome is going to be matters related to security, not just food security, but people are going to find that a desperation is going to somehow evolve. And for those who have studied in terms of social dynamics and all of that, you know that rules and regulations are really of little use when people become desperate. A lot of social experiments and case studies have been actually done to show that man is, when I say man is animal, there is a primal instinct. Let me choose my words carefully. Rules are good and the regulations are good, but there are instances and situations that you can put a human being in which he becomes almost like an animal because of a survival instinct to eke out and to make a living. And in such cases, they don't pay attention to rules and regulations. Even here in St. Vincent, for example, let me show you an example of that. What we have right now in Kingstown, although we have Kingstown Board and we have other regulations governing commerce in Kingstown, a desperate woman, a desperate man will not necessarily, and we have seen it, abide by your rules and regulations. They're going to, you build a market and say, stay inside and sell. But the exigencies of the situation, all right, you don't want to go inside a market and pay a tax or whatever, you have to pay a fee. And all of the passers-by are on the outside. And so you'd rather break that, come outside, take some pallet board and build a stand because people are passing by, they're not coming in the market. You're desperate for an income, you're going to set up outside and ply your trade. With respect to things coming into the country, people find ways of getting around the desperation of their situation. Sometimes even good people will find ways of cutting corners and breaking rules just because they're desperate. I can go on and on. I'm just simply saying that when a man is desperate, he really doesn't pay attention to rules and regulation that much. He pays attention to the important matter of survival. And in the mode of survival, there are some aspects of our humanity that we prefer to keep hidden. There are some emotions, there's some anger, there are some things that will emerge that will affect our behavior. So this is part of the social phenomenon that will evolve and emerge as we go through a prolonged period of this visit. Well, it's not a visit anymore of the coronavirus. It seems like it's going to, stay for a little while. It's like a staycation. So, yeah, that's to answer your question, Daniel. You asked how come during this period these things are flaring up, and I am saying it is actually to be expected that these things will flare up.
Yeah. Okay, Pastor, thank you. I'm going to give you the floor now.
Yeah, well, two things that I have been... first of all, welcome home today. I would be remiss of me if I didn't welcome home our
we have some
sailors.
applause, Flex.
Yeah, welcome home.
Come, Flex. Come on.
There's no place like home.
Hey, that's right.
I remember when I just came back home it was some years ago. I came back home from studies and all that, Daniel, and I'm being away for a while. I parked my car. I remember it. I was so overwhelmed at the place, the beauty of the place. I'd missed it so much. I'm a real patriot. I purport to be a real patriotic Vinci. And then when I became overwhelmed with just being home and watching, and at the time I came home, it was at that time when of the year 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024, 2025, 2026, 2027, 2028, 2029, 2030, 2031, 2032, 2033, 2034, 2035, 2036, 2037, 2038, 2039, 2040, 2041, 2042, 2043, 2044, 2045, 2046, 2047, 2048, 2049, 2050, 2051, 2052, 2053, 2054, 2055, 2056, 2057, 2058, 2059, 2060, 2061, 2062, 2063, 2064, 2065, 2066, 2067, 2068, 2069, 2070, 2071, 2072, 2073, 2074, 2075, 2076, 2077, 2078, 2079, 2080, 2081, 2082, 2083, 2084, 2085, 2086, 2087, 2088, 2089, 2090, 2091, 2092, 2093, 2094, 2095, 2096, 2097, 2098, 2099, 2000, 2001, 2002, 2003, 2004, 2005, 2006, 2007, 2008, 2009, 2010, right after Christmas, where, I mean, it's just beautiful. The skies are blue, the hills are green, the sea has a beautiful hue to it, the rock, everything. And I was overwhelmed, a flood of tears just, is that too soft?
Why? Come
A
on.
flood of tears just came out of my eyes that nowhere else I go in this world can provoke that out of me, apart from being home in Vincy. So
No
that's
place like
something.
home.
This is our little piece of rock. There's no place like home. So I'm glad that our sailors are getting to come home. Some of you are listening in New York and other places, and I think you know the joy I'm talking about whenever you get to come home. It's a good thing. Now, having said that, and in the few minutes that I have, let me see if I can nail down some things here. We are facing some issues currently at this time. Risk assessment of the... I am still continuing to belabor the point that approach and guidance through this coronavirus era is married and cannot be separated or divorced from risk assessment. This is something I said actually about 7 weeks ago, and I remember one guy, Marlon it was, who just took me to task. He shredded me over the matter of risk assessment. But everywhere now that is opening up and trying to respond to the coronavirus, the key word, the key phrase is that we have to have proper risk assessment. And let me just go ahead and say out there, sometimes let's not be too quick to pull people to shreds and to take them to the wood shop and stuff like that. Let's listen to what they're saying. There are a number of things that I've said through this period that others have come back later and said, and we kind of accept it. And then I come to realize a prophet really is not without honor except in his own home. And when you have your own Vincy people telling you things, you want to criticize them, doubt them, and call them all kind of names. But when you have someone come on prime time in radio station elsewhere and say the same thing, we are more ready to accept it. But yeah, the risk assessment is a key issue, whether we are sending children out to school like we have done 2 days. And by the way, my side comment on that, I really again want to question how ready and how clean the schools were to accept these children. When were the checks done? Were the checks done at the schools on over the weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, before the children went out, or were the checks done on Monday after they had all gone out? I know the answer, by the way. It's not like I don't know the answer, but people get offended when I say it, so I'd rather not say.
You're allowed to ask questions.
I will ask the question, when were the checks done predominantly? And were the desks ready and the chairs clean and all of that? Yeah, I have evidence and all that, but let me just ask the question. You can answer it how you want. Risk assessment is a key thing, all right? Then the other matter that I heard this week, I think yesterday, got kind of heated in the radio station there on the matter of prime. On who got and who's not getting and who is entitled and how partisan is the list and all of that. And then this morning, I listened for a little bit before I had to deal with some matters, but I heard about the arrest. Well, I heard about that over the weekend, the arrest and release of Kenson King. And then, people are weighing in on either side. And there are two common factors that thread their way through all of these and other issues like these. Two factors that are key as we try to comment on, grapple with, and try to assess these issues. And the first of these factors that is present in all of them, the first of these is, what is the real truth, Daniel? And that is a bothersome thing, because I am coming more and more to the conclusion that truth is a casualty of the times, that truth is sometimes an inconvenient obstruction to where we want to go and what we want to say. And truth becomes the, basically your whipping boy. So in the matters of risk assessment and schools, the opening of schools, and even ships coming home, because that was an issue, sailors coming home, truth got buried beneath opinions and thoughts and ideas, convictions, confirmation bias. Truth got buried because whenever truth became uncomfortable and whenever truth unmasked our position and whenever truth undermined the position that we wanted to take, truth became really inconvenient. The second thing is not, I said there were two factors. The second one is how gullible are our people. Now, don't get me wrong, that's just a question. You have heard me on times when people have come on the station and basically called Vincentian people dunces and all of that. I have corrected them, and I have spoken highly of our Vincentian people, even if they don't have degrees behind their names and or certain certificates and all of that, that their ability to comprehend things and to walk through things. You know, I always want to speak highly of that. But at some point, I want to, in light of recent circumstances, I want to ask about and question the gullibility of our people. In terms, when I say gullibility, it is a biological term. People don't use this term anymore. Your gullet, your throat, what slips down there easily, and the more things slips down your gullet easily, the more gullible you are. And I think that the time has come to at least not accuse the people of being gullible, but to ask the question, how gullible are our people? What do we believe? And who determines what we believe? And is it true that everything that is said out there that we want to swallow down the gullet, hook, line, and sinker, without a proper reading of the situation, without interrogating it and asking the hard questions, and without looking at both sides? I think these are all irresponsible ways to conduct ourselves, to grab the most scintillating or titillating thing that comes out, salacious bit of morsel of stuff that is posted on internet or elsewhere, that we have to be very, very careful. For example, we were talking about the Kenson King issue, and again we have to thread through this with care. And how we project and say what we want to say and comment on must have, and tell me if I'm wrong in saying that it must have some bearing in truth, that it must be moored to truth, tied. It must be tied to truth, what we say. And you can't just cut the moorings and let our imagination, wanderings, and speech go at sea. It has to be anchored in truth, and some people don't want that. So, but I will say that when we make statements on one side or the other about Kenson King issue, we have to understand truth. Is St. Vincent the only country that does stuff like this? Is it a matter of clamping down on free speech? Is it an intimidation tactic? Should police be allowed to hold people without for 24 hours without charge? Is that an advantageous thing for our society? Is there an underlying reason? Is this a signal, a subtle signal being sent to other people who can say other things? We can just, you ask these questions, but you get truth, you answer, you come to a perspective. The matter of crime, are you going to believe every salacious bit that is put out there and some of it again is what I would call, look up this term, motivated reasoning. And people who are gifted at motivated reasoning, what I have called, they have a degree in sophistry, that's another word you should look up. People are gifted in shaping public mind and public mood. People are gifted by how you selectively use information and put information out there to support a position that you have. And in the matter of Prime, before because the thing has been weaponized. I'll be honest with you, the thing has been weaponized. And so and knowing that, before I accept anything that is put out there, posited, argued, or commented on Prime, I have to unearth and dig beneath and see where this is coming from. And I have to get a sense of truth before I could run with what somebody says. You see this, I'll close now. You see this thing called the internet? Social media, in an age of gullibility, not referring to St. Vincent, but worldwide, people just take things, gather them up, post them. In an age of gullibility, social media, while it is a great asset, social media has also become something that on the realm of jeopardy. Real something that it could be rather dangerous. Institutions can be destroyed, individual reputations can be destroyed, individual outcomes can be destroyed, simply because by posting something, it goes all across the world. Hence the need for control of social media, though some might call it clamping down on free speech. Hence the need for cybercrime bills, not here in St. Vincent only, but elsewhere. Because if this thing is allowed to go uncontrolled and in an age and time where people are ready to buy what they see without proper investigation of the product, there's a lot of destruction embedded there. So let me close by saying that with all of the things that we are currently discussing, whether it is the COVID virus, risk assessment, the conspiracy theories that are out there related to it, Prime, the Kenson King thing, the sailors coming home, all of it, a lot of propaganda, a lot of mischief is probably there, a lot of opinion is going to be spun out there. I am advising and advocating strongly, and again, get vexed with me if you want for saying this, but I think these things ought to be anchored in truth. And I think before we accept anything that people are out there, we should have a sufficient dose of suspicion that we ask ourselves what really is the truth. I hope I don't offend anyone by simply encouraging them to ask what really is the truth. You know, the Bible is so right. You shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. Although we live in an age where the truth can get you locked up. Have a good day.
Well, Pastor, have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Let's check in with the doc and look at things with a wider lens. Pastor Richards on OMG.